Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining today. My name is Jason Hoog, Solution Architect with AWS. I've been with AWS for 6.5 years. And today, I'm going to talk about hybrid cloud. That could mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. So I'm going to focus on a couple of use cases around that. So this will not be a AWS 101 how to get started session. It will be a little bit deeper than that. If you do have any questions, feel free to ask at the end of the session. I'll also be followed by two of my other AWS colleagues, Greg and Tom, who will talk about different but still AWS related content. So when we talk about hybrid cloud, there's really a continuum of use cases that belong to that category. So you have use cases around maybe manufacturing and industry. And so this is going to be things like, how do I put sensors on my devices? How do I take advantage of that IoT data, both locally on the edge, meaning maybe at your facility or on premise? And then how do I actually send that to the cloud for additional offline analytics? We talk about networked environments. So networked environments could be, I've got a local network, I want to connect it to the AWS cloud. So that's hybrid as well. And so we have solutions and offerings for that. 5G telco networks becoming very popular. AWS recently released in preview the ability for us to help you with that 5G implementation, private 5G implementation. The two I'm going to focus on are in the middle, so I'll skip those. But if you're like, you need to bring data compute to metropolitan centers, that's also a hybrid use case. Now, chances are that you may have some use cases for these other two hybrid use cases in the middle. First being rugged edge and on-premise. So when we think about on-premise, this is typically, I have a data center already, but I have some use cases where I can really leverage the agility and the scalability of the cloud. So I'll talk about some services that support that. But what if you are at a remote location? Maybe you have sites that are remote that always don't have persistent connectivity. That's where that rugged edge comes in. And we'll talk about services that support that as well. So I'm going to talk about first this hybrid challenge that AWS Storage Gateway will help to solve. This hybrid challenge is really around, I have an on-prem application, and maybe it's a third-party application, homegrown, but it's collecting a lot of data. Maybe I have end users that are accessing files on a file share, and it's collecting a lot of data. And so I have data, I have storage needs. Over time, I have to continue to maintain that equipment. I have to upgrade the storage and so forth. And that's really the challenge that AWS Storage Gateway is trying to solve in several different avenues. Those avenues being things like migration. So being able to back up and archive data to AWS. Modernization, being able to shift those on-premise NAS devices or file shares to cloud-backed data storage that's virtually unlimited in the amount of storage that you can expand to. And then continuous reinvention, meaning you can access and share cloud data across your different edge locations. And so that's where we enter AWS Storage Gateway. AWS Storage Gateway is an umbrella of storage features that allows you to bring the scalability and the unlimited storage capacity of the cloud to your on-premise networks. And it does that in a couple of different ways. So you see here, there's four product types under AWS Storage Gateway. The first one being AWS S3 File Gateway. So File Gateway is basically a virtual machine that you can launch in your own VMware cluster or in an EC2 cluster that basically allows you to create a network mount, so a network attached storage device, either with NFS or SMB. But the big difference here is that device is actually taking your data and backing it up to Amazon S3. And S3 becomes the single source of truth for your storage location. The local device that you're using is really to help provide low latency access to those network file shares. And so it's handling the caching, it's handling the communication back and forth from Amazon S3. The awesome thing you can do is, let's say that you've migrated a lot of data to Amazon S3. You basically take your S3 bucket and hook it up to a file gateway, and now you've got file access to your Amazon S3 bucket. The second one there you see is Amazon FSx File Gateway. So if you're looking for more of a native Windows file share experience, this is where you would go, because Amazon FSx File Gateway is actually communicating with a Windows FSx file server within the AWS cloud. And so it works very similar to the S3 File Gateway. The only difference is it's actually backed by a native Windows file share that's managed and hosted within the AWS cloud. Tape Gateway allows you to reduce your physical tape infrastructure on-prem. So this is, again, another virtual appliance that offers virtual tape libraries. It hooks in with a lot of the standard third-party software out there for doing tape storage. So things like Dell and Beam and so forth. And then the fourth one there is Volume Gateway. So this is block level backups of volume. So these are iSCSI interfaces that are created by the Volume Gateway. It allows you then to hook into that. And then the Volume Gateway will take care of managing those backups to AWS. So all of this gives you benefits. What are those benefits? It gives you standard protocols. So I talked about things like NFS and SMB and iSCSI and VTL. So you don't necessarily have to change a lot with your application. So I've had customers that basically, they brought in their existing software, got rid of their physical tape infrastructure, and then started backing up to the AWS Storage Gateway tape gateway. It does local caching. So this is really the use case that a lot of times you're looking at, is low latency access to frequently used data. Designed to be secure and compliant, and then very cost effective, because this is pay-as-you-go pricing. You're paying for the amount of time you're running that storage gateway, as well as the storage that backs your storage within the AWS cloud. Okay, so where are customers finding success here? So the first thing is a lot of customers are able to make decisions where they want to offload a lot of their physical infrastructure into the AWS cloud. Bristol Myers Squibb, one of our customers, so they're a biopharmaceutical company, and they basically use Storage Gateway to play a role in offloading a lot of their data storage and their file storage for their applications into the AWS cloud. They collect a lot of data. We're talking petabytes of data for doing analytics on research and so forth. And so they're able to take their current application and then back up that data into the AWS cloud on Amazon S3. So this is a typical data flow diagram that they use within their architecture, where they have their instruments or the applications supporting their instruments connecting to a local file gateway. So that gives them low latency access to their files. And then file gateway will then transfer that data into Amazon S3 over a private connection using AWS Direct Connect. If you want to find out more, you can go to their blog and learn more about how they did the implementation. Another good story is around FSx File Gateway. And we're seeing customers that are taking their current physical infrastructure that they're using for Windows file shares and moving those to FSx File Gateway. So the File Gateway will cache the data locally, the most used data locally, and then do the automatic transfer into the AWS cloud. And so Direct Supply is a service provider in the healthcare space. So they actually did this, and they wrote a blog just talking about their experience, how they did it, why they did it, what the financial benefits were, what the operational benefits were, because now you're talking about, instead of having to manage all this physical infrastructure, upgrade those Windows file shares, they're able to use managed services within AWS that takes care of a lot of that operational heavy lifting. And then they go into more specific details on, what's the latency difference if I did this, with a file gateway on-prem versus connecting directly to the cloud. And so they provide a lot of details and the benefits around that FSx File Gateway story. Okay. So that's Storage Gateway in a nutshell. Again, this was like the 10-minute spiel on it. Again, if you have more questions, you can ask those at the end of the session. The other use case we want to talk about is really compute at the edge. And so this starts with a service called AWS Outpost. So AWS Outpost is really an extension of the AWS region that can live within your data center. And so AWS Outpost allows you to bring AWS on-premise. It uses the same AWS designed infrastructure that we use in our AWS data centers. It's fully managed, monitored, and operated by AWS as if it were in an AWS region. And it provides the same single pane of management that you get with the Amazon Web Service console for spinning up compute on these AWS outposts. All right, so what does an outpost look like? Well, you actually have choices now because the two on the left here are fairly new. What we came out with several years ago was the AWS Outpost full rack. This is a 42U unit. And so this is something you could order. These are all 3-year commitments. So they're purchased as 3-year renewals. But you now have the option where if a 42U full rack doesn't fit your use case, because maybe you want to bring it into a small shop or a remote site or a healthcare facility, you can now choose from a 1U or a 2U single server unit as well. Okay. So what's the advantage of this? So first of all, it can be that your data requires low latency access to your applications. So if you need an application, with sub-millisecond time or millisecond access to your application, your data locally, this is a great use case for AWS Outposts. Also, data residency requirements. If you have requirements from a compliance perspective that only allow your data to remain within your data center, then Outpost will allow you to do that. So Outpost also allows you to use some of the same AWS services that you use in the AWS cloud directly on the Outpost. So you'll be able to spin up EC2 instances, which are virtual machines. You'll be able to spin up things like Amazon RDS, which is our managed relational database server. If you want to run containers, you can use Amazon EKS, which is the managed version of Kubernetes, as well as doing things like Spark processing on Amazon EMR. So all of these are basically, think of that as this is a subnet or a different availability zone of your AWS region. And so you can manage these directly from the same AWS SDKs and command line interfaces and APIs that you do today. So when it comes to Outposts, we have customer stories out there about how they were able to provide low latency, real-time access to their applications using AWS Outpost. So you can learn more about that on our website. And then the last thing I'm going to talk about at the edge is the AWS Snow family. Okay, there is one component here I will not talk about. It's the Snowmobile. You can go on our website and learn more about the Snowmobile. But the Snowmobile was something that was presented several years ago at AWS reInvent that allows you to do exabyte data transfer from your on-premise networks. But what we're going to talk about today is a little bit deeper dive into the AWS Snow family and some of the services that it provides. So let's remember what use case we're going after here with the Snow family. So it is what we call the rugged mobile edge. So the rugged mobile edge is, I don't know what connectivity I have. I may have remote users. I may be developing my own applications where I need low latency access from mobile devices or IoT sensors. And so that's really the use case we're going after with AWS Snow. So you might have, again, IoT that brings sensors, machines, cloud computing, analytics, and people together to improve productivity and efficiency. So some of the use cases might be manufacturing facilities or remote mining facilities, oil and gas, agriculture. Basically anywhere where you need that low latency access, you may have data residency requirements, you may have disconnected requirements. That's what the Snow family is intended for. And it gives you the ability to do things like predictive maintenance at the edge, predictive quality, asset condition monitoring. All right, so we know that running workloads at the edge is challenging, and there's actually 3 things that will often push us towards having this mobile computing at the edge. The first is just law of physics. I cannot upload data to the cloud because I need low latency. I don't have connectivity, or I don't have reliable connectivity. The second is law of economics. I can't afford to do it because uploading terabytes of data that I produce daily is not necessarily cost effective when I'm doing data transfer. So in that case, you may want to take the data locally, do some manipulation, do some analytics on it, do some compression on it, and then upload it to the cloud. And then third is you're just not allowed. That's the law of the land. So this is where, based on data residency or compliance requirements, that data has to stay in a certain facility. Okay, and so that's where AWS Snowball Edge comes into play. So the Snowball Edge is a device that's built for edge computing, and it comes in really two classifications: storage optimized or compute optimized. So if you just want a lot of storage locally that maybe you're going to later on ship back to AWS and put it into an S3 bucket, that's where the storage optimized Snowball Edge comes into play. If you want something where you're running compute at the edge, so maybe you're analyzing data coming off sensors, that's where you will want a compute optimized Snowball Edge. These are hardened, secure, highly performant compute devices that live typically in the data center or outside the data center in things like factory floors or remote sites. They come with up to, I believe it's 120 terabytes of storage, as well as over 50 virtual CPUs, over 208 gigabyte of RAM. Optionally, you can also order one with GPUs. So if you have HPC intensive applications, you can take advantage of that GPU processing. Another part of the Snow family is the AWS Snow Cone. So if you look at the Snowball, you actually see it on the left-hand side. It's not really a great picture, but you can certainly look at it on our website. You look at it like an old 386 machine. It's about that size. The Snow Cone is about the size of a tissue box. So it's a much smaller footprint, but it allows you to do portable computing from, smaller locations at the price point that you might need for a specific use case. So it's built with the same rugged technology and security as the Snowball devices, but it comes in a much lighter footprint. Now you might ask, what can I do with these Snowball devices? So first of all, you can put your data on it and then ship it back to AWS to put in an S3 bucket. So this is a lot of times a lot more efficient than running over the wire, because if you have 80, 100 terabytes of data, that may take a while to transfer over your network. So this allows you to basically order a device, set it up in your network, copy that data, and then ship it back to us, and we'll put it in your AWS account. But you can also do things on the Snowball device directly. So first of all, especially for Snowball Edge Compute Optimized, you can spin up EC2 instances that allow you to run applications on the Snowball devices. It also integrates with our IoT services. So it allows you to collect data off of IoT sensors. It allows you to run things like AWS Lambda functions. Lambda is a container-based service that allows you to just bring your code and run functions on it. As well, you can do container platforms and then also run things like AWS Data Sync that allows you to take data and then sync it to the cloud directly from the Snowball Edge. Okay. So just a few customer stories here on Snowball Edge. The first one is around DTAC. They're a wireless carrier in Thailand, and they used Snowball Edge to do local processing and edge computing for their video and data analytics platforms. Another one is Novetta. Novetta is an advanced analytics solutions company that's focused on the public sector defense industry. And so they use the Snow family, both Snowball and Snow Cone, to collect all of their IoT and analytics locally, and then do processing, automatic monitoring and real-time monitoring on that data as it was coming into that local device. And so we have more information on our website if you want to learn more about those success stories. What I'll say though is, Snowball, both Snowball Edge, Snow Cone, they're really, built to give you options when you're when you have certain requirements at your edge locations. They are pay as you go, so you'll pay, per day. There's also, like, if you think you're going to need those Snow devices for more than a year, then you can do what we call reserved instance pricing on those as well. Now, bringing this all together, we actually launched AWS Tape Gateway with AWS Snowball as an option as well. So if you want to transfer your existing tape libraries to AWS, but you don't want to do that over the wire as well, you can actually use Snowball to do that transfer. All right, so how do you get started? So you can look at our website. We do have free training classes for Storage Gateway, Snowball, and Outpost. So you'll be able to dig deeper into what the capabilities are of all those solutions. You can also create an AWS account if you don't have one already. If you do, then you can start to develop proof of concepts by ordering your own Snowball and starting to build your applications on top of that. If you do have specific needs, like, okay, I'm not sure if this fits my use case, you can certainly go to your AWS account team if you have one. If not, you can go online to our AWS forums to get community help as well. All right, so any questions around Storage Gateway? We've just got probably about 1 minute.
Our virtual attendees. Can you go in there?
How about you do?
All right, let's see. There you go. Does an Outpost also store the data in 53 or some sort of cloud storage?
Yeah. So the question from Charles, does an Outpost also store the data in S3 or some sort of cloud storage? That's actually in your control. So Outpost is meant to be an extension of the region, and you can control where your data is stored. So you can store it directly on the Outpost. It also has, it can run S3 locally on the AWS Outpost. So you have the option of keeping your data directly within the Outpost device. But you can also offload that data into the cloud using the typical S3 API commands that are already known. The biggest thing you have to know with Outpost is it's not meant to be a disconnected solution. So it needs that connectivity because the control plane, so where you're issuing like your API calls to create a new EC2 instance or to spin up an S3 bucket, things like that, that still requires the AWS control plane. And so it also is important for monitoring, because we need to be able to monitor that device for you to make sure that you're getting all the CloudWatch alerts and metrics and things like that. So it's not meant to be disconnected, but just know that your data, you can control the flow of that and keep it on the AWS Outpost device if you need to do that.
Excellent, thank you.